Tim Steidten is a man on a mission for West Ham right now, but then what would you expect? He's the technical director in the summer transfer window with a week to go. If he's not busy now, he's never going to be, but he's flying left, right and centre, and successfully too. Off to Mexico he went to get Edson Alvarez, then he was in the Netherlands to negotiate with Ajax over Mohammed Kudus, then he popped over to Germany to pick up Mavropanos, bring him to the London Stadium, watch us beat Chelsea and get that signed over the line. Off he went to Bulgaria to collect Mohammed Kudus after scoring a hat-trick in the Europa League, bring him back to West Ham. Now he's in Brazil because apparently West Ham want Corinthian striker Yuri Alberto. Now, I've never heard of this guy. I had to look him up on Transfer Market just to get a brief overlook. 22-year-old striker who can play left and right as well as through the middle in a front three. 4 goals in 19 this season, so it's nothing that blows you away. But he's been quite consistent throughout his career so far. Like I said, he's 22, so he's still quite young. But he's got a record of about 1 in 3. Had a loan spell at Zenit St. Petersburg as well. So he's been in European football previously. And it's on loan that West Ham want him. We want him on loan. Apparently his agents are a little bit difficult to deal with. But I think that's probably why Steidten's gone over there to try and get something sorted. There is a backup, Pedro of Flamengo, who's been capped 6 times from Brazil. So we can't get Yuri Alberto. Pedro is the alternative out there. So that's interesting. They were targeting 2 strikers from Brazil for this one. Now, if you cast your mind back to probably October time last year, just after the summer transfer window closed, Rob Newman was in Brazil to set up a scouting network. It was well documented. Rob Newman's photo was everywhere, handing over the previous season's home shirt to the clubs to get their recency. Remember that? He went out there to get their newest home shirt, and he gave them West Ham's old home shirt. So even when we fly our head of recruitment out to Brazil, we still like to save a few quid where we can. But Rob Newman was out there trying to lay down some foundations, trying to start a bit of a scouting network. And while he's been sort of pushed in the background a little bit this summer, he's still there. And, you know, Carlos Borges was someone we were trying to sign, and it was a Rob Newman recommendation. So maybe that has been successful, and that's why Tim Steidten's gone out there. Now, the West Ham squad sort of numbers at the minute is where it's starting to get interesting with the signing of Kudus. We'll get onto that, and that's why I don't think we can sell Ben Johnson this summer. I've seen there's been a lot of Championship clubs linked to him. Understandable. I understand why they'd want him in his last year of his contract at West Ham. So there's a big decision for West Ham to make in that regard. I don't think we can sell him. I don't think we should sell him, even if it means losing him on a free next summer. I think we'd be better off retaining him and just letting him go because of the way the squad works. But before we get on to that, and we'll do Kudus in a second, just a quick reminder, Tony Gale's book is out on the 1st of September. If you pre-order it with Hammers Chat, you will get a signed copy. We will be meeting up with Tony with all the books that's been pre-ordered, and he will be signing them all, and then we'll get them posted out to you ASAP. Please be a little bit patient with us because we haven't got a date for meeting up with Tony just yet. But it will be ASAP. But if you pre-order it with Hammers Chat, you will get it signed by Tony Gale. The link's in the description, or go to hammerschatstore.com. The official release date is on the 1st of September. Grab your copy. As for Mohammed Kudus, buzzing we've signed him. Absolutely delighted. When the Paqueta news came out, I was a little bit worried because Fabrizio Romano had said that he was Paqueta's replacement. So Paqueta didn't go to Man City. We perhaps wouldn't want Kudus. Now, other people out there like Extra Employee said that wasn't the case at the time, and that we would be getting Kudus. We want him and Lucas Paqueta. Well, they've turned out to be correct. So battle of the in the know there over the Kudus deal, but I'm so happy we've got him. I've been trying to keep up to date with everything. If you missed my review from the Brighton game, I'm away for a few days, but I've been keeping an eye on all the transfer news and stuff. So when the Kudus thing came through, I was so happy. When I was watching the Brighton game, actually, it was difficult not to see him as a striker because there is that, you do this thing, don't you, when you bring him in. When we signed Alvarez, we know where we're going to play him, defensive midfield. When we signed James Ward-Prowse, we know where we're going to play him. We know where we'll play Mavropanos. Now, you could argue we're going to go to a back three. Now we've got an extra centre-back, etc., etc. But with Kudus coming in, and the fact that he can play in so many different positions, and his sort of main one at Ajax was right wing, which is Jared Bowen's one. And the way Bowen's been so far this season, you're thinking, well, you're not going to play there. You're probably not going to get that position. The only way you go there is if Bowen moves up front. And I don't want to see Bowen up front. I don't want it. He was fantastic against Brighton on the right of a front three. So let's leave him there. We've seen superb football from him in that position. I don't want to start moving Jared Bowen around. He's really good where he is. Just leave him be. But then that begs the question, so what we're going to do with Kudus? Are we going to play him on the left? But that's where he doesn't have that much experience playing. He's got more experience as a striker or a number 10, even centre midfield if you like. But he can play out there. He can play anywhere. Sometimes I think this is a bad thing for a player. I think you're better off having one position that you're master at. What is it? Jack of all trades, master of none. You don't want to be one of them. And I think that's partly Ben Johnson's problem, that he's okay at right back and okay at left back rather than being really good at one of them. And I don't want to see Kudus becoming one of those players that he can just play anywhere, so we just use him as and when we can and where he's required. A bit like what is happening to Pablo Fornals at the minute. But when I was watching that Brighton game, it was hard not to think when Antonio was flagging a little bit, thinking this is where Kudus comes in. This is where we take Antonio off and Kudus goes on and he goes up front. Because he's got loads of experience playing up front for Ajax and for Ghana. And he can do that role well, and he's more suited to the way Antonio plays than Danny Ings is, and that's for sure. But I'm really looking forward to him. I think we might have a little bit of a bedding in period with him. I know there'll be sort of criticism / jokes being made. Oh, we'll see him in February when he's settled into Premier League. I think we'll see him on Friday night. I think he'll be on the bench. He'll probably come on. We might have to wait a few games before he gets his first start. But you know what? That should be the case. We've got 7 points from our first 3 games. We've just gone to Brighton and scored 3 goals. Why should he get in the team ahead of Bowen or Antonio or even Said Benrahma? Why should he? He should be made to wait. He should be made to fight for his spot. It's not like Alvarez or Ward-Prowse, where there's a vacancy in the starting 11 because we've just sold Declan Rice. That's not there. We haven't sold an attacking player. So he's coming in to challenge these players. So put him on the bench against Luton. Bring him on when Antonio's struggling. Put him up front. And I think we'll see something there, because we know Moyes has got this thing about converting players. Now, I've often sort of said that Moyes didn't necessarily convert Marko Arnautovic, and I stand by, because Arnautovic had plenty of experience as a striker prior to coming to West Ham, so it wasn't anything new. Playing Antonio up front was completely new to him, but playing Arnautovic up front wasn't new. But at the time, I was sort of maybe reluctant to sort of brand David Moyes as some sort of genius for playing Arnautovic up front. So by the same token, I can't then say, well, Moyes is going to be a genius for playing Kudus up front. But I'm trying to flip this round. This is actually meant to be like sort of like a defence of David Moyes, believe it or not, because he's gone and got someone in Kudus that has got plenty of experience playing up front. So if he does put him up there, he's not trying to convert Kudus to a striker. He's already done it. So we're bringing in somebody that's demonstrated he can play up front, that has similar traits to Michail Antonio, has an eye for goals, a very good dribbler, is strong, is fast. I can see why Moyes would want to play him up there. But also it means that if we want to use Antonio up there and we want to start Kudus, we can do. We can play him somewhere else at the team. So I think this is a fantastic sign. I'm really excited. He's the one I'm most excited by out of our signings so far. He might not be the most successful. Ward-Prowse might be more successful for West Ham over the length of his contract than Kudus. Ward-Prowse might be here longer than Mohammed Kudus, because I think he's got the potential to go on and earn a move to a club challenging for the Premier League title. I believe that. And I'm okay with it. You guys know this. I'm okay with players coming here. I don't like the phrase stepping stone, but using West Ham as a gateway into the Premier League and hoping to get a move to Manchester City. Fine, you want to move to Man City, that's okay. You're going to have to come to West Ham and become a £100 million player. Simple as that. We'll be able to cash in and go get the next one, hopefully. So I'm okay with that. I'm excited by it. In regards to Ben Johnson, and why I don't want him linked, I don't want to see him move. Linked to a few Championship clubs, makes sense. Last year of his contract, not had a sniff of action yet. But if we do sell him, I'm going to have to go get a right back, which we haven't really been linked with any, but we're going to have to go get someone. I know Kerr can play there, but I don't want to see Thilo Kerr playing right back at all. So we will need to replace him. Obviously, he might still sign a new deal with West Ham. We have offered him new contracts, which he's rejected. That's why he's in this situation. But the reason we can't sell him is because of squad numbers. Now, I've left this to the end of the video for a reason, because people don't like it. People don't like when I talk about the squad quota. I remember once, it wasn't that long ago, it was in January, I was talking about how we're quite restricted what we could do in the transfer market, and someone literally said I was making it up about quotas. I mean, the rules are the rule. I'm not making stuff up. Go look for them. I just assume people knew the rules anyway. But anyway, Anyway, at the minute, you can have 17 non-homegrown players. We've got 16. So we've got room for one more. So when we're being linked to players like En-Nesyri, like Yuri Alberto, you can believe it, because there is room for one more player that isn't homegrown at West Ham. We've got 8 homegrown players. Basically, you need 8. If you only got 7, that's fine. But a space in your 25-man squad is vacant. You can't fill that up with a non-homegrown player. So we sell a homegrown player. Now, this includes Antonio, this includes Creswell, this includes Danny Ings. A lot of the players we'd probably like to move on, we're restricted a little bit. But for Ben Johnson, it's more restricted, because when it comes to the Europa League, 4 of those homegrown players have to be club trained. So currently we've got Anang, he'll be in the squad. We've got Ben Johnson, we've got Connor Coventry, and although he doesn't need to be registered, we've got Mubama. But if we sell Ben Johnson, we're essentially losing a spot in the Europa League squad. We will only have a 24-man squad, and that includes Mubama in that 24, by the way. And it just means that if we then go get a homegrown player, we're then non-homegrown player, we might have to not register one of those players for Europa League. So it gets a little bit. There's a lot of admin involved in this transfer of Ben Johnson, if you like. And for that reason, I would keep him, even if it's just to be an option in the Europa League. Even if he only plays 10 games this season and he goes at the end of the season, I'd keep him. Because what's he worth at the minute? I don't know, 5 million maybe? What would you get from a championship club for Ben Johnson? 3, 4, 5 million? I wouldn't sell him. I would keep him. He's a good player. He is a good player. I think a move to a championship club's probably what he needs. I feel like I will admit and say I feel like his time at West Ham is coming to an end, or it's maybe already come to an end in that sense, because last season I was hoping it was going to be a big one for him. He was going to sort of nail down a first team squad role. He did the opposite. He had some good performances, but he had some really bad ones as well. And I think he just struggled to recover from one of the two poor performances he had. Brighton away especially was the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. And from then on, his confidence was just shot. And I feel a bit sorry for the lad, because any player that comes through the academy at West Ham, you urge for them, you really root for them to go on and succeed at West Ham more than any other player for obvious reasons. And then if Ben Johnson does go, we'll have Mubama, I guess, but we won't have any academy players. Coventry's there, but is he going to play? Probably not. Is Mubama going to play? Probably not. So we're going to see a lot of matchday squads this season without any academy players in it. And that's going to be, well, kind of new to me, I guess, because all my life I've had West Ham players from the academy in there because of Declan Rice, and before him because of Martin Noble. Then when you go back before that, you've got the likes of Stanislas and Tompkins and Collison. For as long as I remember, there's been an academy player in the West Ham squad, so it'd be a bit weird, and I don't really like it, truth be told, that we're going to have a lot of Premier League matchday squads this season without an academy player in there. We might have Nang on the bench, but that's cheating in a way, isn't it? But yeah, Ben Johnson, I wouldn't sell him for that reason. I'd keep him. Yuri Alberto, Pedro, know nothing about them, but we can go get another player in that isn't homegrown, so they're believable, I guess, especially if Steidten has gone to Brazil. There's something in that. But this is the type of deals that we wanted Steidten to do, to bring in these youngsters that could go on and make it. A loan deal with, you'd assume we'd have an option to buy in there. You'd assume we'd be protected. It makes sense, doesn't it? That's where I will say, while the joke about Moyes and Kudus I don't think is applicable as such, because he will get plenty of game time, I think you can apply the joke to Yuri Alberto, which is we did get Yuri Alberto in. Would we see him very much? It's difficult, isn't it? If we've still got Ings and we've still got Antonio. And do you know something? I'd rather see Mubama. I'd rather see Mubama than somebody in on loan from Brazil. So we'll wait and see. I'm not getting too excited about this striker, but it's hard to when you've never heard of him before. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and disappear. Get your Tony Gale book if you fancy it. We'll get Tony to sign it. We'll send it out to you. Whatever you're up to this week, have a good one. I'll catch up with you in a bit.